Hello friends and welcome back for another episode of Indie Impressions. My name is Nick and today we're going to be checking out a platformer named Elemental. This is a very unique platform with a very interesting premise to it, and essentially what it boils down to is you have 4 different directional keys. Each one represents or corresponds to an element. So we've got a fire one which is mapped to the right, we've got an ice one which is mapped to the left, we've got an earth one which is mapped down, and an air one mapped up. And essentially all you do is use linear motion and momentum to carry you through a series of levels which are quite interesting and quite difficult. So I feel like there's a lot of stuff I gotta get out of the way before I get into this one. First off, I want to say visually and from an audio perspective, this is one of the most interesting and beautiful games I've seen in a long time. In fact, I would probably say the soundtrack to this would be maybe in my top 20 of, best soundtracks that I've heard in a game, period. Still figuring that out, but from what I've heard so far, it is extremely good. The difficulty level, however, and you're probably going to be pretty judgmental on me for this one because my gameplay is not quite up to snuff yet, but it's a very tough game to get into at first. I feel like after you get a little bit of practice and you get a little bit of proficiency with the cues that you're supposed to pick up on, the levels do become easier, and especially with repetition. But I did spend about 45 minutes or so with this game last night, and I tried to get, a little bit of that out of the way ahead of time, so that way when I recorded it, you wouldn't just laugh at me, but there's no guarantee that I'm going to do anywhere near what I should be doing in terms of doing this game justice for a gameplay, segment. So I just wanted to let you guys know, if this comes out awful, I tried my best. So let's try the new game again from the beginning, but I do want to just show off the options menu very briefly. There is a "this is too hard for me" mode, which of course I don't want to enable. As someone who's 100%ed Super Meat Boy twice, I'm up to the challenge, it's just very difficult. So, new game it is. There's also a race mode, and I have not tried that out. Oh, and then we've also got some tutorial. Maybe we should start at the very, very beginning, because I don't think when I actually started the game I even started at the tutorial. I think I started at the first level, which led to some difficulty for a moment or so. Don't walk behind me, I may not lead. Don't walk in front of me, I may not follow. Just walk beside me and be my friend. Alright, that is sort of an analog for what to expect in the gameplay here. We are going to be gently guiding what's going on in this. Alright, so here we go. Up for air, and the journey begins. Essentially, you can carry the idea that these air currents are going to be lifting and maneuvering your character. You can see by the little snowfall in the background, or whatever that's supposed to be, particulate matter. And essentially, all that we need to worry about right now is just pressing the up button repeatedly to get this bubble over whatever humps it needs to get over in the landscape to not pop. You'll see there's a little circle that appears and disappears around my character. That's your energy meter. You can only use your energy so much before it turns red, as you just saw there, and then you will not be able to use it again until it recharges sufficiently. That is essentially what is keeping you in balance the whole time, and it's really interesting the fact that there are literally only 4 buttons that you use in this entire game. You really don't have to worry about a whole lot other than that. So it does keep your focus squarely on the environments, and that would be a pop. And the environments are generally very beautiful to look at. So when you pair it with the simplistic gameplay, in essence, but there is a lot of complexity and depth, you generally would be set up for a pretty enjoyable experience. There is some frustration for sure, though, to be had. It says I'm not afraid of water. I'm gonna, have you steer clear of the water anyway. But yeah, the difficulty does come from some repetition. There are moments when you're gonna find yourself in a position where you have to play the same sequence over and over and over again with a checkpoint that essentially will drop you back. Maybe 10 seconds back, which is not a big deal per se, but when you do it 20 or 30 times with the same results of, failing to some silly little thing because you got slightly pushed out of the way at the last second, or you lost momentum. I mean, granted, that gets easier with repetition and figuring out exactly what all the conventions of the game are, but it does get pretty frustrating at the beginning. So like I said, there's a bit of a learning curve. And so far, this little tutorial does not do the learning curve justice. This is actually fairly simplistic for certain. So we just got to guide our guy over to this little, whatever this is, this orb or light spot, which is harder than I thought to land inside of, and I still managed to pop myself at the last moment there. You can actually sort of stack momentum, so if you're already riding an up current, you can actually hit up a bunch of times to grab more momentum out of it than you may have had. Oh no, I went too high. So this is one of those moments like what I just mentioned. You need to essentially just let things that are outside of your control take care of everything. So press enter to continue, and then we will try probably another element here, or we will just jump to the first level. I'm not sure which it's going to have us do. If your energy turns red, you can only form ice. Oh, I didn't even know that. I thought you just could form essentially whatever it is that you were stuck on at the last moment. I'm the coolest element. So ice is really the one that you spend a lot of time with. And essentially what we need to do here is just ride the momentum and try and use our bubble whenever is possible to catch the most, you know, velocity off of each movement. So we're going to do double jump with the bubble there. And then when you have the fire element, you can also use right to sort of grab a little bit of a boost, which can be pretty helpful. And I think we're going to be introduced to the concept of water here. Oh, no, you're not. Alright, sometimes you're supposed to let yourself get turned into water, other times you're not. It didn't kill me, though, so it's not a big deal. But, yeah, you have to somehow be able to read ahead what you're supposed to do in the levels. And, or know them from repetition, which is, I guess, fine as well. There we go. But I really, really love the aesthetic design here. I mean, it reminds me a little bit of, like, Limbo and Insanely Twisted Shadow Planet. Both beautiful games of their own right, but this takes its own direction on it. Oh, alright, well, I was supposed to turn back into ice the last second. This is actually, I think, mixed up sequences from one of the levels. I think I could have just stayed as ice and gone through that little cubby hole there, but I actually probably would have gotten more momentum for doing that. But too late now. Should be able to ride it over this. The lava also provides a very slight updraft. I keep flipping back and forth to the wrong one. There are hints and such, which I don't really think we need to use. I get what I need to do, I just need to do it better. Alright, there we go. That went a little bit more smoothly. There we go. And now we've got sufficient velocity to cross that gap. I think I just want to go up this as high as possible and ride it back down. So the first moment is you essentially just figuring out how to traverse each of these scenarios. And from there, you basically try to apply those concepts. I mean, this is generally how we learn all senses of gameplay. But this one, it tutorializes in a little bit of a different sense. The scope with which it tutorializes is a little bit wider. Alright, so we can form stone with down, which gives us a fast down burst. This is sort of like your butt stomp from Super Mario or something. So now I have 3 elements to play with. We've got ice, we've got air, and we've got stone. And so I want to use that downward slope and then the downward thrust from the stone to propel me forward. I'm going to guess maybe there's... no, alright. Sometimes there's a bouncy element going on underneath you that you need to capitalize on. This was not one of those moments. And this is another one of those moments, though, where you need to gain velocity from almost a standstill, which I find that very frustrating when you just run out of momentum because you made a mistake. Essentially, you're kind of doomed to repeat the last sequence that you just experienced, and a lot of times that gets a little bit frustrating. Alright, so there we go. I'm back up the hill. I can use stone repetitively to hopefully give me some velocity. It did not really work out that well that time. You know, there's some quirks to the engine, I have to say. And by the way, the only 2 elements that can actually interact with the ground and not die instantly are the ice and the rock. The fire and the air both will actually just lose the second you touch ground that isn't specifically designed for it or them. Right now I feel like I'm playing a sequence from Tiny Wings here. I'm not probably going to make it over this gap unless this draft wants to help me out. Okay, it did. There we go. And downward thrust, and then ice. So the traversal mechanics, you know, on their surface, they seem rather simplistic until you actually get a grasp of how the game employs them, you know, in conjunction with each other. That was a complete failure, so we've got R to restart from the last checkpoint. Something I wish I didn't really have to do very often, but, you know, sometimes it's necessary. So you want to do down and then ice, and that's going to give us a huge burst, and then I guess I want to ride this. I don't know, I can't always read the level design instantly. Oh man, I tried to turn back into stone there, it didn't work. So now we get to play the sequence over again. We want to try to use the down to hold us to the ground as much as possible. It probably gives you a decent idea of the level of difficulty this game has based on the fact that this is literally tutorial level number 3, and I've already encountered a sequence where I'm actually having a slight degree of difficulty finishing, and now I've trapped myself in this corner where I have to restart again. Why even put that corner there? I mean, don't we want to win? Pardon me, I'm not trying to sound frustrated, I'm just saying, you know, level of difficulty is very high. So if you ride that too high, we'll actually end up hitting the wrong curve there. It's like there are unnecessary traps for you to run into just, you know, in the level design inherently, and I'm not sure why we would want that in the earlier levels. And if you accidentally flip over to stone when you're not supposed to, you basically just screwed yourself. And if I can make it over this gap, I cannot. Restart. I don't need a hint. No, I know exactly what I'm supposed to do. I just can't seem to execute it. But if things still keep going poorly, I suppose I will just jump into the first level, which I know I can beat. You know, after a few tries anyway. Yep, so this is exactly what I'm talking about. The types of stuff where if you just can't read the level design perfectly, for whatever reason, you just kind of are doomed to fail over and over again until you can figure it out or get lucky. Yeah, see, I was hoping to hit that edge, but I guess it's enough to sort of creak by barely. I don't think this will be enough, though. So, oh, pretty big gap there, maybe? Nope, I don't think I can make that. And then now I'm going to be forced to go back the other direction, which will probably shoot me across this gap again, so we get to ride that another time. Nope. Yeah, so if you don't hit that curve just right, you are basically just doomed. And we get to replay that sequence again. Let's see if we can jump back to the... Or, no, we just jump right past this prologue here. Skip prologue? No? I'm hitting skip prologue. It's not letting me. Main menu? New game. Select starting level. Level 1. Alright, so now we've got a little opening cutscene about some... I don't know what to call these. They look like little cute puffy guys that hang out in the sky. These are our elements. And it looks like elements are going to fall in love and merge. Not sure exactly what that's supposed to give us, you know, a sense of, but, you know, it's a nice setting to open things up with. The best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt with the heart. Alright, so here we go. Ready, player one? I'm ready. Let's do this. So, the first time I tried this game, it launched me right into this level. So I, of course, you know, by nature of having played thousands of platformers, I instinctually pressed right on the arrow keys, or at the time I was using my 360 controller, because this does also support that. And I was instantly met with death. I didn't understand why I would turn into this fireball and instantly die. Well, now that you've seen the tutorial, hopefully you have a feeling of what exactly it is you would expect. So we need to use right to get traction, or rather velocity. We need to use up to try and get lift, and then use left or down to try and glide. Down is probably not the best idea. We probably want to use left always for ice. So again, it's a very unique concept, and I really like the fact that it's something so different. Yeah, I didn't quite make it over that gap, so let us try that one more time. And then use up all of our energy instantly. Interesting that ice gets the preferential treatment, right? I guess it's all balanced for that. Alright, so let's turn into a bubble and float up, and then ice, and then fire, so we can bounce on this. And hopefully back to ice, and bubble. Ice again. I should probably get some velocity. There we go. And we'll hang out in this little groove right here where we can then turn into a bubble. And then this is sort of like in that game Jumper, if you remember, where we need to get those arrows to continue to be able to grow our velocity up. And at the last moment, we'll turn into an ice block, hit the lava, turn into liquid, and now we're playing Archer McLean's Mercury for a split second. Oh, see, that was a bad move. And now I'm doomed to fall into the lava. Okay. Well, what I was supposed to do there, I believe, is bounce off of that lava. There we go. Oh, well, I need to turn back into ice, though. So see what I mean? There's a lot of sequences where the level design is not the easiest thing in the world to read. At least at first, although it does get better. And then we just need to ride this up, turn into stone, and then we should be able to butt stomp right through that. I believe ice might also do the job if we were in the right spot. I've had ice be able to break through ground before. So I got a bronze flag. I actually didn't do particularly well in that. My time was not amazing. I didn't get whatever extra secrets there were supposed to be to find. Let us find some soul sparks, I suppose. I'm just going to play a couple levels, maybe even just this level, just to give you an idea of where the gameplay goes, because I am positive that if I try to continue on further into this game, you are just going to get extremely frustrated if you're not already. But this does give you a good idea what to expect from the game, at least hopefully. And it's really hard for me to come up with a complete summation of my feelings as, you know, this game goes. It's good, for sure. I definitely have positive feelings for it. But there are times when, you know, I have less than positive feelings for it, and they come and go, and I'm sure with experience and more time spent, the feelings of frustration will, you know, hopefully alleviate to nothing. This sequence itself, and this is, mind you, the second level in the game after what I thought was to be the very first level, the tutorial, which I was mistaken on. This is still very difficult, and this sequence took me a good, you know, 5 to 10 minutes just to get through the whole thing. Of course, I'm doing a bit better now, but I wasn't yesterday. Alright, so let's turn into a bubble again. What I can do now is switch back and forth between the rock and the bubble to gain momentum quickly. And I do really like the interplay between the materials, and I think that that is really the strength of what the game has to offer. And it's something I haven't seen done in this way ever before, so, you know, huge props to the developers for that. See, this is not something I'm sure how exactly I'm supposed to traverse. See, now I've lost all my momentum, and I can just bounce around. Turning into a fireball and then landing onto a lava ground area, I don't believe actually will keep you alive like you would expect, because you can hit lava on walls, but I think if you run into it on the ground, you still just explode. Kind of want to try that, actually, see if I can. Well, just reaching the lava without running into it is quite a feat. Or without running into the walls around it, I should say. I turn into an ice block at the very last possible moment. Oh, didn't mean to turn into water there. And the cycle continues. See, this is the kind of thing where if you have this really great, you know, physics-based, momentum-based gameplay, what you would hope to be able to do is really convey this sense of speed and forward momentum. You know, because I feel like having all this momentum kind of does the game a disservice when you can't use it to make progress. You're just essentially playing the same sequence over and over again until you figure out exactly the right moments to press the right direction to traverse it, which makes it feel a little bit more like a QuickTime event in a weird way. I mean, I got it, and most of these are not too difficult to figure out. It's just literally executing them. It's like kind of like playing a you know, Guitar Hero song on Expert and hoping you can make it through it. I'll start the next level, although I'm pretty sure I'm probably going to end up leaving it before it's over. Oh, right, I have to use the bubble to float above lava. It does, you know, remind you of these things, so it's not like it's impossible to learn. They've pretty much done everything in their power to make sure that the game isn't too frustrating if you're, you know, finding yourself in that position. And again, there is a mode you can switch over to, but I just choose not to out of obstinance and stubbornness. So forward we go, gaining momentum and immediately losing it. Thankfully it snapped me to that checkpoint. And again, I want to remind you the visual design and the audio here are absolutely top-notch, and really do go a long way to making this feel like a complete package for me. This is, by the way, a Steam game, if I haven't mentioned this already. It should have just gone up on Steam as of the day of this recording, but by the time you're watching this, it will be up for a full day. So, yeah, I think you definitely should have an impression of what you're going to get and not get out of this game by this video, although I am curious to know, out of, I believe there are 16 total levels, how hard are we talking by the end levels? Because, you know, I had similar experiences playing Dust Force in terms of the difficulty, but this one I feel like maybe is even another step beyond that. But I'm sure when you get things going and really moving well, and you're like absolutely 100% ready to take on whatever challenge is coming, this is going to feel absolutely wonderful to be able to traverse these environments. There's a little bit of momentum there. See, it makes sense when you can read the level, everything feels nice. See, I gotta use... Oh, see, I messed that up. I changed to ice, but not in enough time to turn back into water. The fluid physics of that water definitely seem a little strange. It kind of looks like a pile of dry ice to me, but, you know, it does get the job done, so I shouldn't be complaining. So you gotta keep measuring the angle that you're traveling upward at and trying to not hit the walls while you're a bubble, switching back to ice and immediately switching back to bubble again. Especially, it can be difficult when your character doesn't always respond immediately, and that time I don't even know why I lost, because I shouldn't have been touching any walls when I turned into the bubble. I would assume that when you are traversing the ground as anything essentially other than the bubble or the fire, that you would keep a small degree of separation from the ground. But apparently that can't be guaranteed. Sometimes you just immediately die by switching to a certain material state. I'm going to try and gain a little bit of velocity from using the rock. And then up and over. Alright, there we go. So, down that way, that's a radioactive pit. Very pretty looking, by the way. I guess if you had enough velocity, you could perhaps get over that. I don't see how, though. Where's my stunt double when you need him? And then there's these little, like, fog portals over there. I've seen a few of these, and I've never been able to reach one of them successfully. But I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to go to those, whether they're, like, warp zones or some form of useful unlockable, I've yet to figure out. Almost made it that time. It's enough to give me a little bit of a nudge in that direction. Oh, is this going to be the time? See, there's no way to effectively travel left if you need to travel left. You always have to go right, because Fireball is the only thing that's going to give you that little hit of momentum out of nowhere. Unless there's, like, an air current or something. Nope, that was a poor idea. Okay, well, we're dead again. And back we go over here. Alright, that was a pretty good bit of momentum we've got. That was the best that I've traversed that so far. Also love to know if there are ways to play the levels out of sequence, like if you're particularly good at gaining momentum in a certain sense. Maybe it's possible to actually traverse some of these sequences in a way that you wouldn't expect. Kind of hoping that's the case. I do always love sequence breaking in my games. I'm not sure why that's such a big thing for me. There we go. And hop the little radioactive pool, very nice. Now I believe I've got to use a butt stomp on this squishy part of the ground, which reminds me a little bit of Loco Roco for some reason. And each time I do that, I will gain a little bit more height and enough to properly traverse that edge. Oh, see, I blew that one. Nope. Alright, so I should be able to actually finish this level. That might do it. Alright, that's enough to get over that edge, and then we've got to actually hit... There's a little jet of what appears to be liquid, but I'm not really sure what the material state of that is supposed to be. It kind of looks like oil jutting out of the ground, which should be hopefully enough to get me enough momentum to then cycle back, hit it again, and actually I think I'll go over top of it. Maybe I'll get a little bit more momentum that way. There we go. That's more like it. And then fling myself all the way over here. There we go. Soul part found. So elements lost 12, lost sparks recovered 0. Maybe those foggy areas are the lost sparks. I don't know, I'm not skilled enough to know yet. But hopefully that's something I can figure out in due time. So if I press enter, that's going to take me on to yet another level that is probably a little too hard for me. But I think we'll wrap up the video at about this part. There is... Oh, this is that really nice sequence. Right here actually felt great. When I was having a particularly bad run of momentum-based movement sequences, I actually found that this part made me feel a little better. Okay, if I can just get over to it, that is. And down we go, and into ice. There we go. So we got a lot of flipping to bubble, and then right back to ice again, and then we want to actually turn into water here. But that's exactly what I'm talking about. That sequence was so nice, except I messed it up right at the end. And I feel like there should just be a little bit more allowance for that, like a little bit more of a fudge factor. Anyway, yeah, like I said, this is going to be where we wrap up the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, remember to head on over to my website if you want to check out more indie games. I've got over 400 videos now in the series. This one in general, I really did respond favorably to. There are just some little bits of things that I wish were a little bit different, but, you know, it is just a case of personal preference, and I'm sure over time some of the rough edges will smooth out for me. You know, frustration is really all I'm talking about here. But yeah, Indie Impressions, indie-impressions.com, that is where you go for them. And I hope you guys can check out that website, because I've got forums over there, I've got categorization, I've got tags for everything. Everything's neatly sorted. If you have a particular favorite genre, you can feel free to search by those, or a distribution method. If you want to go browse all the games that are specifically for Steam, just as this one is, that is something you can do. Aside from the website, though, I've also got facebook.com/indieimpressions. If you'd like to go over there, leave a like. It only takes a moment, helps me out quite a bit, and then you'll get every day's new video delivered right into your stream. I also do occasional news updates. Man, it's hard to concentrate on playing this and talking at the same time, but I do news updates, I do contest game giveaways, as well as just the everyday's videos showing up there. Wow, I can't believe I lived through torching 3 times in a row there. But aside from the Facebook page and the website itself, there is also my Twitter handle, which is @RockLeeSmile. If you'd like to go over there and give me a follow, that is entirely up to you, but it's the quickest way to get in contact with me. If you'd like to just say hey, or if you're an indie dev and you want to get in contact with me about possibly showing off your game on the series. Aside from that, though, I've also got a contact form, which is available right on indieimpressions.com, or indie-impressions.com. And you can feel free to send me an email anytime, even if you just want to make a suggestion for the show, or have a particularly good game that I haven't covered yet. There are still hundreds and hundreds more, and I have tons of suggestions and a list of games that I need to get to for the series that I will continue working on, probably for years to come. But that is going to pretty much do it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you check this game out. It's a lot of fun, and does require a lot of patience, but once you get through it, it is a good time, and definitely very beautiful in a lot of ways. So I hope you guys have a lovely night. Thank you so much for watching, and make sure you come back again tomorrow for another awesome indie game. I will see you later, and have a good night.